What's a common misconception about? Disclaimer, this is just my personal opinion. Your experiences may differ. The first time with a new partner is never the best. Everybody has different things they like, soft spots and so on. At first, you don't know them, so it's poking in the dark. Only with time and communication you learn the tricks and bits. Know someone who bases his relationships in how well the girl telling him it might be him just makes him scoff at you. When he did fell in love with a girl, she broke it off because he was lousy and was also an. Speaking as an experienced here, your dating ups are baseless. You're not real, not authentic, and is damaging your relationships and your self-esteem. There are very few, and I mean very few people in this world who find out their partner has a 10-inch and are delighted about it. Huge equals pain, discomfort and even injury during and after penetration, unreliable and soft erections, prep takes forever, sometimes literally weeks, if you want to do it safely, limited comfortable positions, and a lot of partners who literally physically cannot take your. Of course individuals have their own preference, but generally speaking people who are obsessed with size, their own or not, outside of fantasies are mostly virgins and size queens. The average size is roughly 5 to 6 inches because the average aroused is basically the same length, and despite what your favorite tells you, slamming the cervix is not a good idea unless your partner is specifically into it. Also, only about 20% of people with are physically capable of reaching through penetration alone, and the prostate is only 2 to 4 inches deep to BTW, so if you actually gave a shit about your prowess, fingers, tongues, toys, and talking, by their powers combined, you can have great with pretty much anyone regardless. Send this to the top lol. This all took me a while to figure out. Once I realized that going down on a woman and finishing her off was my biggest turn on, my life has been amazing. Everyone goes home happy, or so I was led to believe lol. Edit. Honestly though, being comfortable enough to communicate with my partner, even the bare minimum communication, made a night and day difference. Not real and sex in the shower is overrated. My wife loves it in the shower, but our height difference means it's a brutal thigh workout for me as I squat a little and try to balance while giving her an enjoyable performance. It's not the best, but I'm not about to turn down from my wife. Bad with her is still great because, well, it's my wife. I also choose this guy's wife. Seriously, though, I completely agree with the brutal thigh workout. I'm a clear head taller than my partner, and showers or any where we are both standing is enjoyable, but goddamn makes me sore. Most of the time, I need to find somewhere more comfortable before I can finish, simply because the pain in the legs becomes a little much and takes over any feeling of pleasure. Even a few inches height difference between pelvises, or between bed height and pelvis, can be a game changer or a game ender. One girlfriend of mine had a pelvis 2 inches lower than mine, and so when we did doggy I had the slightest squat going on, and it was nightmare on the quads. When we switched to using the edge of her bed it was the reverse where she was 2 inches higher, and I had to stand on my tiptoes, and so my calves were burning, and hamstrings stretched to the maximum. Suffice to say we did a lot of missionary and cowgirl instead. That you're supposed to pound each other like jackhammer. Slowly but smoothly rocking in and out has its place. And no matter what, when one of you says right there, don't stop and just keep doing exactly what you were doing. I explained to my wife that I use 2 kinds of strokes, one for lasting longer, and one for finishing quicker. I lolled because it's so true. Sometimes I'll inadvertently start doing a finish stroke and I'll think to myself, oops, better be careful here, and my girl will say keep doing that, and then I become Jordan Peele sweating gif, because once I commit to that we are both on borrowed time. Sometimes I try to disassociate my penile sensations in order to make that move last longer. Sometimes I shift into dom mode and the act of taking control helps me last longer, because I'm tricking my brain. but also sometimes I just think a single unhelpful thought, like I can't believe she put on that outfit just for me, woo and it's all over. Get rid of those gosh dang expectations or you will be disappointed. For heaven's sake, don't take things personally. If your partner isn't down for something, it has literally nothing to do with you. This is about two human beings being as vulnerable as they can be with each other. That means two individuals with different comfort zone. Also, getting into the whole who is the dom / who is the sub thing is probably not a recipe for long-term success. My girlfriend's first words on that subject were, "I'm a switch perfectly set up for then all that matters is that I turn you on." I love that this is a candid thread about you just tossed out a casual gosh dang. That if he didn't get the hint, he's gay or not into you. There are lots of reasons why he didn't get the hint or take you up on your offer, but the big ones are usually booze. Either he's had too much or he thinks you've had too much and doing it would be a very bad idea. Low self-esteem. Yeah, right. No woman would be interested in having with me. She's just being friendly. Previous bad experiences mistook friendly for interested. Bad scene ensued. If he doesn't take the hint at first, be more direct. It's okay to just say you're cute and I want. That if he didn't get the hint, he's gay or not into you. There are lots of reasons why he didn't get the hint or take you up on your offer, but the big ones are we are stupid like that. Like, we men in general are just not into that whole subtle hints thing. Licking your lips or playing with your hair can be taken a million ways, and most of us don't want to come across as creeps. Being blunt about it is almost never going to be taken poorly, and I know very few guys who go, "Man, it was going so well, and then she sits on my face." Not cool, man. Not cool. That it's the most important thing ever, and you'll die a virgin if you don't have it before you hit your 20s or whatever. Look, it's fun and all, but it can also be bad, but it's not the end of the goddamn world if you're still a virgin after you graduate high school or by your 30s or beyond. There's other worth focusing on that's enjoyable too. Also, nobody owes you. No matter how nice you were to them, no matter how hard you tried to make them feel bad for you, no matter how attractive you think you are, nobody owes you. I dealt with a lot of self-esteem issues when I was younger, some of them stemming from the fact that I was a virgin until my 26th birthday. Since then I've had several partners, and don't get me wrong, I do really like. But at the same time it wasn't life-changing or anything, it's just something fun that feels good, but usually I'm just as happy with my as I'm with a partner. Sometimes more happy with the TBH. I've had some really subpar. Any advice you can give to someone in your same young shoes at 23? Not up, but I was around your age when I lost my virginity. It isn't the be-all end-all experience in life. I was an anxious low self-esteem wreck before, and I still was even after. At the end of the day, is something natural like breathing or taking. Don't place too much importance on it. Instead, enjoy your life doing the things you like. Find someone who you love, because it's the one thing in life that really shines when you do it with the right person. Don't rush it to tick another checkbox. Eventually you'll figure out who you are comfortable having with, and he/she will make it as fun as it can be. Rushing is never fun. In some ways you might end up traumatized from the event, and it might impair your ability to enjoy it after. I think the first person who responded has the right of it. Don't view it as some big life-changing event, and don't build it up in your head to be more important than it is. At the end of the day, whether or not you've had before has little impact on your life. If you're worried about it being a deal breaker when dating, just remember that a decent person isn't going to belittle you or make fun of you for your inexperience. None of my first few partners cared about mine. I was upfront. I said, "Hey, cards on the table, I don't have much practice here." And they were chill about it. They took the extra time to make sure I was comfortable and helped me figure out what I liked and didn't. So I guess my advice would be, live your life, don't worry about meeting some arbitrary Deadline. Invest in some nice toys for yourself, and if you do just want to go ahead and get rid of that V card, find a partner either romantic, strictly, or even a FWB who can make you feel comfortable rather than ashamed. Guys always want it. Now, one night my girlfriend and I were getting handsy, and I said to her, I love you, and I think you're extremely attractive, but I just don't feel like having sex right now. Don't get me wrong, I love and enjoy having her, I just didn't particularly feel like it at that moment. When I get home from work at 9 and have to get up for work before 5 AM the next day, the last thing I want to do is have, honestly. Also, when you're with someone a long time, I think it's pretty natural not to want to have 14x a week. Get boring when you do it every day. I am 29, have a high drive, high relationship, and she's amazing. I'm nuts about her, but sometimes I'm legit too tired, not feeling good, or just straight up not in the mood. Especially when I first wake up. Little tip, if she's into morning but you need to wake up first, try to surprise her with it from time to time. Wake up early, get your coffee, or whatever, then go wake her up for some morning. My husband did that last weekend, it was awesome. It doesn't always have to end. That goes for men too, sometimes you're just too tired, or whatever. Yeah, 100%. Sometimes it's just not gonna happen. Sometimes you're in the mood and not to chase. Sometimes you came recently and you probably can't do it again for a while. Sometimes you're having to do your partner a favor. Sometimes you've got on your mind and the last thing you need is the pressure of trying to. Both men and women find themselves in those situations all the time. After a few years and getting into a nice relationship, I put to bed the guilt of feeling bad for not coming, and now I actually come way more often. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily better because of more or. That's just a bonus. That everyone is supposed to have it, and further, that not having it means you're pathetic or broken. Speaking from the experience of an person, but for those who aren't interested in and don't understand why, just remember that you don't have to have glorified in media and prevalent in so many shows nowadays. If you aren't having and don't have a drive or desire to get, just remember that that's alright. I would encourage talking to your primary care physician to let them know and have conversations about it to ensure there's nothing medically wrong. Outside of medical issue, there's nothing wrong with you for not looking to engage in. And don't let people reinforce this idea that you have to have better education on GSM, gender and minorities for school students would almost certainly help clear up a lot of fears, worries, and anxieties surrounding. If I had known that it was a thing when I was teenager, it would certainly have helped me. I'm sure there are a lot of people who don't realize that they are not actually straight and are worried as to why they don't feel the same way as a lot of their peers and friends. Just a thought. That wanting doesn't mean you are entitled to it. It doesn't matter if you are married and or have been together for decades, your partner is not obligated to give you just because you want it. Same with the other way around, if your partner wants but it's been a long day, you don't have to give it to them. As a part of the relationship. It's like when a person wants to go on dates or wants their partner to do romantic daddy things, even though they have been married for 4 years. Yeah, I mean, no one is entitled to anything, even in relationships, but in the same way where a person may become unhappy in the relationship and eventually end the relationship because their partner doesn't treat them like they did when they were dating, a person can become unhappy in a relationship and eventually end the relationship if they find themselves consistently being reminded that their wants, especially their wants to something that they view as being very important, such as are irrelevant and made to feel like for wanting to sleep with their partner. No one is obligated to do anything, and no one is entitled to anything. But there are things that are done in order to maintain a relationship. Many may disagree, and that's fine, but I mean, disagreeing isn't going to change the fact that if your partner ignores the things that you want, whether that's a date or romance, or whatever, then maybe that partner you are with isn't a good partner. I don't know, that's how I've always thought about it. That practicing informed and ongoing consent and checking in with your partner during the act isn't enough. Yes. There are lots of ways to get consent. It doesn't need to be a stop. Is this okay with you business tone? Can I taste you? And would you like or may I? And then keep doing what you've already gotten consent for, kissing or oral, or whatever until your partner verbally consents or physically consents. If they don't, offer something else. Ask what they would like you to do to them, or be content with what they have already offered. On the flip side, mostly us women, took me ages to get up the nerve, get verbal with it. Tell him what you want. If it's getting hot and heavy with the foreplay, tell him, whisper or scream it, lick me and I need you in me, or if you're shy a simple make love to me, they f*** that shit. Listen to your partner, lack of consent is a no as much as a verbal no. If you ask for oral, and they make no move to do it, or they don't say yes, the answer is no. They might not want to ruin the mood or don't want to upset you. Take the lack of response as a no and move on. Don't force your junk towards their face or their face toward your junk. Prior consent is not relevant either. Your partner might not want your face near their genitals because they had a spicy burrito for lunch and can't bring themselves to tell you they don't want to risk farting on you. So if someone says no, don't ask why, just move on. Having a giant isn't something to signal male dominance with, and I see it a lot. Girls aren't stars. Stars are actors. The only time I've ever had a penetrative experience, I was forced to interact with something similar to my forearm and it very much traumatized me. He essentially did nothing to help and expected me to just like that. It genuinely felt like I was being killed, and I yelled for him to stop and cried afterwards. I haven't interacted with anyone, male or female, since then. The guy I'm talking about wasn't a horrible person or anything like that, before anyone thinks such. I super want to make that clear. I fully consented for 60 seconds or so until the point I began yelling to stop, and he very much stopped, and even asked if I was okay. It seems in hindsight that he just thought that because he was simply born with something girls are supposedly meant to just like that he could dryly penetrate me, and that the pain of that is supposed to turn me on. And from what I've asked of others, he was probably the worst anyone could possibly be. From what I've learned about my own body and about in general is that a guy could have no at all and still be considered amazing if they understand how girls work. There is a reason can exist and also have satisfying, you could say. Point being, if you happen to be the incredibly small portion of the population with an abnormal organ, you have to understand that no girl outside of those who actively enjoy that actually cares about that trait specifically. And that you could end up ruining someone like me all because you think you're a stud when really you're just being delusional and inconsiderate. P.S. Please enjoy your stuff, or whatever, but don't bully others over uncontrollable factors. That a woman losing her virginity means something more than her hymen breaking, if it hasn't already torn, and experiencing this sort of encounter for the first time. The concept of *virginity* and its virtue is a social construct created to increase shame in women who have before a certain age or other life event, like marriage, because historically males have purity. The hymen doesn't really break, it can tear but it usually just stretches, and it will heal itself. The concept of female virginity isn't some arbitrary rule to shame women to remain pure. Promiscuity/casual is by far the most detrimental practice for both genders, in particular women. Being depressed, unhappy, and turning to from forming multiple attachments to different men is truly hellish for women. How anyone could view this as liberation is astounding. I've found that lots of women don't want you to touch their with your hands. Hands are clean, short fingernails, touch is gentle, but no go. And even half of the women I've been with don't want or either. They just want to go right to penetration. It contradicts everything I've heard from others. I don't know why and what's up with it, but this my experience from a dozen or so partners. I'm used to be like that, and sometimes still am, even though I've had plenty of partners. Especially if I'm with a man. Mainly because I feel way more ashamed about them doing anything to pleasure me. It makes me feel like a burden. Plus a lot of guys aren't very good at using their fingers / going down, and it can hurt if they do it wrong. But if you try to guide their hand, tell them what you want etc, they get mad and grumpy. Then there is the expectation that can be hard to do, especially when stressed. And for me, it takes a while. I need regular clit stimulation for like several minutes for me to even get close. It makes me feel bad. Now I have a boyfriend who wants to spend time and doesn't get annoyed if I show him what I like. But all my other bad experiences are still there in my head. It's not as bad when I have with a woman. That's usually a lot easier. That having with people validates you as a person. Edited, so this is the actual answer to the question. I have many times had people thinking it was a way to make me feel better about myself, but turns out it just gave me more and more insecurities about myself as a person. I never felt attractive and thought that if a person wanted to have with me, that it means that I was actually worthy or actually attractive to people. I would always be surprised when pretty people would want to sleep with me, and I would tell them that I couldn't believe that I was even worth sleeping with. If you have past traumas with your own body and issues with them, it's better to seek help than seeking attraction from the wrong people. Me made me realize a bunch of messed up actions that happened to me that made me feel bad about myself, and that my family talking about my body messed up my self-esteem big time. That's attraction is fundamental to the human experience. In practice, not all humans experience attraction, and that's perfectly okay. People who don't experience attraction are called not robots or plants, and we can have just as happy and fulfilling relationships and lives without ever experiencing a connection with someone else. Many people do experience crushes that include romantic, sensual, aesthetic attraction to other people, just minus the usual attraction. We are fine as we are. We are not broken, we don't have a hormone imbalance, we are just different. And our shouldn't be cause for concern or fear or attempts to cure it, any more than any other should be. That it is so simple and banal a thing that there can never be a standard set of rules for approaching it. Is arguably the most deeply intimate experience out of all those which comprise the human experience. Everyone is different, everyone likes different things. You're not going to be able to find all the answers by asking strangers on the internet. You can only do that by experimenting and communicating with yourself and your partners. I strongly suggest that anyone reading this thread take all the opinions here with a grain of salt, as they are both just that, and anecdotal to boot. That it's anything like. Sure, the basic concept is there, but most of the time people start out pretty vanilla, especially if it's not someone you've regularly had with. And a lot of the crazy positions they do are purely for show, not because they actually feel good. The whole bending over a counter or bed thing only works if you're at or around the same height. Same goes for the 69 position. Also, showers kinda uncomfortable tbh. It's also extremely difficult to hide the fact that any sort of happening, even behind closed doors, it tends to make a very loud and recognizable sound, even if you're trying to be quiet about it. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.